once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin and I'm here today with Justin. How you doing, Juz?
Good, Gav. How are you, man?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. A little bit deflated, I'll be honest. It feels kind of like our season's been thrown away in the space of 2 second halves, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It's been a really rough week. It's kind of crazy to, be riding the high we were on with the win streak in 2024 and all that, and then in the space of a week, probably go trophyless. Not to be pessimistic, just realistic.
Yeah, and I'm trying to avoid the temptation of doing the funeral procession, right? Because we have to remember that this isn't over. As bad as this feels right now, there are 6 games to go. We're only 2 points behind. We still have a marginally better goal difference than Man City. I mean, technically, if we win out, they draw 1 game. We're still champions. So, I want to be careful not to try and write the obituary on a season that's still going. But it is hard because I feel like that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for me now that it's out of our hands. I mean, we are more than capable of winning out. Now we have some tough games. Don't get me wrong, Tottenham, United, but we all know City is too. And now that they've got it in their hands, it does make it a little more dicey.
And picking ourselves up and dusting ourselves off after this, I think is going to be tough because this is 2 crushing blows. And the fact is that we had a whole team that didn't perform in the second half again for the second time in 4 days. And I can't really explain why. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to delve into the season right now. But I think the 2 players we rely upon most for goals are Martinelli and Saka. And I think both of them have had disappointing seasons, right? I think the pair of them have had underwhelming seasons. And I think that's a problem. And it looks weird when you think, well, we're the top scorers in the league. Well, we are, but not in big games. We failed to score in too many games this season. I saw something on Twitter on, I think, Monday or Tuesday. It might have been Scott Willis that posted it. We failed to score in 5 league games this season. You don't win the league not scoring in 5 league games. No one wins the league if you don't score in 5 games. And we've had 5 games where we haven't scored.
Add on to that 5 losses.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to beat the guy too hard or anything. He's obviously one of, if not the star player. But I think Saka had one of the worst games for us I've seen. Martinelli as well was, he worked very hard. Don't get me wrong.
But I thought he was one of our better players on the night, actually.
Yeah.
But that's
Saka?
still not good enough. Martinelli.
Saka?
No, Martinelli.
Okay. I was like, whoa.
No, Martinelli. I thought Martinelli was one of our better players on the night. Saka was off all night, but Saka's been off for a lot of the season.
He has.
At the end of the day,
did you see the stats for the game?
This is just
he did nothing.
No, and it's just not been a good enough season from him. We were all up in arms when Rio Ferdinand said he wasn't world class. Well, he scored 18 goals this season. 9 of them have been penalties. I'm sorry. I don't see how we can argue that he is world class when he scored 9 open play goals all season. He's not a bad player. He hasn't become a bad player overnight. The potential's still there. But I think next season, he has to be a lot better than this. I said to you last week that if Saka didn't score over 25 goals, we wouldn't win anything this season. Well, he's on 18 and there's 6 games to go. And that, to me, says everything.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I didn't realize it was that penalty heavy, to be honest. I know he's taken a lot, obviously, but I didn't realize it was half his goals. That's a bit of a surprise. But yeah, he's struggled this season, hasn't he? I don't know if it's lack of rotation, if he's carrying something or has at some point in the season.
Do Do you think we have to look at how we use him as well? Because part of my frustration with how we use him is that he's too far from goal. He gets the ball like he should be our best goal scorer by a mile. Salah doesn't receive the ball every time on the halfway line with his arse on the touchline. That's not how Liverpool use him. And I just wonder if we're ever going to be able to get what we need to out of Saka if what he's doing is receiving the ball most of the time around the halfway line on the touchline. I just don't know we're ever going to get to where we need to be if we keep Saka out there and don't get him closer to goal.
This is really dumb, Gav, and I'll admit it before I even say it. It's absolute semantics, but I do think it plays a little bit of a part. I look at Salah as like a right forward.
Yes.
And Saka, I don't. He's a straight winger, at least the way we use him.
Yeah,
and,
he wasn't last year though, right? Like last year, he played more like an inside forward.
Yeah, and so I don't really understand what happened. I think I don't know if Ben White or whoever is the right back is playing more of a part this year. So to dovetail, they kind of, because don't you think Ben White's he's overlapping more, but you'd think that would make Saka go in more.
Yeah,
and it's not really happening.
No, I think maybe it's funny. We got to this stage of the season last year and we collapsed, right? And there were mitigating circumstances. We had injuries.
Yeah.
This year, you could say the same thing again. I think we've got an almost unusable Gabriel Jesus right now. We have an unusable Thomas Partey right now. Tomiyasu has missed most of the season. And I tell you what, if Zinchenko had put in the performance that Tomiyasu put in the other night, he'd be slaughtered for it. And it's not that Tomiyasu was bad. He wasn't. But that is he gave us less going forward than Zinchenko does. And he got burned a couple of times going backwards in moves that would have made Twitter absolutely catch fire had that have been Zinchenko.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know about that, Gav.
The ball, that diagonal over the top that he lost the flight of and Sané got in behind him. If that was Zinchenko, this fan base would be lighting pitchforks steaming outside his house.
Was there anything else though?
Yeah, he got absolutely mullered down the left-hand side another time by Sané, where if it had been Zinchenko, there would probably have been cannons pointed towards his house. Like Tommy, I don't think anyone had a good game in that second half. I thought once again we had a good first half and a terrible second half. But yeah, I don't think Tomiyasu was bad, but I don't think Zinchenko has to be bad for it to erupt like that. And I'm just saying, if that had been Zinchenko that got roasted the way Tomiyasu did, and then especially that diagonal ball over the top, if that had been Zinchenko, you would never hear the end of it.
Well, I mean, let's go ahead and hit on that then. I know we touched on it a little bit a couple of days ago in our pod, but it seemed there was quite a few boos when he came off. I think it just. Wait, am I getting my games mixed up? I am, because Zinchenko didn't even. Never mind.
No, that was against Villa at the weekend.
Yeah.
Were boos, and that's why I said I thought all things being equal, Zinchenko should have started against Bayern Munich. He is our best left back. He is basically our only left back. But with the way the fans' reactions have been to him, I don't know you can use him. He certainly can't play. He certainly can't play the home games. You can't play him at home against Chelsea, and it's nuts. He's our best left back by a long, long way. Tomiyasu had one game against Salah, and all of a sudden in people's minds became Paolo Maldini. I'm not sure how that happened. I don't think Tomiyasu is a bad player. I also don't think he's a great player. I don't believe he's a shutdown defender like a lot of people seem to think he is. And he gives you next to nothing going forward. So I don't know. I think we're in a mess. We're in a mess of our own making kind of thing. My point with this really more than anything else was just that I believe that tactically something has to change here, because this way is just not working. We're battering teams like Sheffield United, and that's all well and good. But we did nothing going forward at Manchester City. We did nothing going forward last night at Bayern Munich. We had nothing going forward against Aston Villa. It seems like we play a semi-decent team and everything just goes.
I mean, I don't want to fault the club too heavy for that, because I mean they did make a decently big purchase in that position, in Jurriën Timber, and obviously that's not worked out. But I think it does show the club was obviously cognizant of that.
See,
They've seen.
I disagree with that, Just, because I don't think that's where he was bought to play. He's played 4% of his entire career at left back.
I don't think it matters though. I think he would have ended up had he been fit, he'd have probably been 75% of our games at left
See,
back.
I don't think so, because
where else would he have played?
Ben White was awful before November. Awful.
Me.
By October, Jurriën Timber would have been the starting right back in this team. I'm 100% convinced of that. I don't think Jurriën Timber's playing left back for this team next year. He was bought to play right back, not left back. He's not left back.
Okay.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, Kai Havertz wasn't bought to play up front, but he's ended up there, right? That's fine. I do take your point that it would have been an option there, but I don't think that's what he was bought for at all. I don't think that was even in the realms of possibility at the time.
I absolutely think that you looking at form of our players that can play fullbacks, Ben White keeps his starting position and Timber ends up playing more left back. It doesn't matter if he was bought for that or not. I think Timber plays most games at left back this season if he doesn't do his ACL.
Yeah, I don't see that. I really don't.
You're a huge Zinchenko fanboy, to be fair.
But that was the plan coming into the season. Like Arteta's plan is always to play Zinchenko if Zinchenko.
It's not though. We bought Timber, I think, to give us that on the opposite side. But with Zinchenko being injury prone and pretty shit this season for the most part, I guarantee you, as Timber. Well, it doesn't matter because we can't prove this.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, and at the end of the day, I think a left back is an absolute must in the summer.
It is. Yeah.
But I'm more bothered about the whole tactical setup because we don't seem to be able to create chances as soon as teams go into this, and it's not even low blocks, as soon as teams go into this mid block and stuff up the centre of midfield like Bayern did last night and like Porto did to us twice, we just don't seem to be able to create anything. And our forwards aren't good enough. Like, I think that's a fact. Kai Havertz is not a good enough footballer to play in these games. Sheffield United and stuff, it's fine. But when you look at the ball bouncing off him at all weird angles and that, you can't play him in these games. You need someone better than that in these games. And I mean, the question really is, how short are we? Not are we short because we are. How short are we, and how badly have we misjudged where we were as a team? Like, I think, are Martinelli and Saka what we thought they were a year ago, or are they what they've been this season? I think that's the question that really we need asking. Can you even answer that question without a proper centre forward? Because let's be fair, Martin Odegaard should have between 15 and 20 assists this season. He's got 6.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that is the key problem here for me, is that we're not creating anything, but are we not creating anything because the movement in front just isn't there? Like, I was looking at that. I never felt we were going to score on Wednesday night. Not at any point did I think we were going to score. I thought we had a good first half and we created one chance, the Martinelli one that got saved.
There was another one, another good one.
Ben White fired the one over the bar, didn't he? Where I think he switched feet really nicely and there was so much room for him to drive into, but instead he just lashed at it and it went over the bar. And that's, our 2 best chances in 2 legs might have fallen to Ben White. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not what you want. It's great to see him getting up there, but it's really not what you want. I just thought, attacking wise, we've been really, really disappointed ever since we stopped playing really bad teams.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel that way. I think there's quite a few factors. I think left 8 has still been an issue for most of the season.
Yeah,
and I think you've got someone like Havertz that does an admirable job, and he's definitely good on the defensive side of the ball with pressing and being able to win back, as well as running forward and being a bit of an aerial threat from midfield. But I think between that left 8 and center forward, our wingers kind of just have to dick around that. You know what I mean? And
I think as well, with regards to the Havertz thing, I think you can get away with Havertz at left 8 if you've got Thomas Partey. And this is really weird because when at the start of the season we were saying, well, we've bought Declan Rice so you can play Kai Havertz in midfield. But we didn't really know what Kai Havertz was at that point, right? Like, we got it wrong. We thought he was a luxury player. We thought he was a ball player. And we were so wrong. So wrong. What he is...
He's not that.
No, he's not. He's not even close to that. I think you can maybe get away with it if you've got Thomas Partey there. I don't think you can get away with it if you've got Declan Rice there.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point of view. I'm not saying I disagree. I'd not really thought about that. I do think that Partey gives you like better vertical pass. Well, I mean, Rice is pretty good at that too.
He's not good enough though. He's not good enough at that.
He's not good
that's
enough.
That's not what he does. So he's not good enough. And I think if you're going to play Declan Rice in the 6, which I think we should, I think we need a better player than Kai Havertz, a better footballer than Kai Havertz in that
Absolutely.
league. You know, what you're really looking for, you need a two-way player there. You need some version of Martin Odegaard on that side, maybe one that wants to score a bit more. You know what I mean? Like, let's be fair, you're probably looking for someone like Aaron Ramsey, I would say, over on that side. Someone that breaks into the box, but someone that can work back as well. That's kind of what you're looking for over there. Kai Havertz is just not a good enough footballer to play that role. He's just not. And I think in these big games, I don't think he's a good enough footballer to play up front either. I think he answers questions that weren't really being asked.
So 65 million, then that was probably quite a bit, huh?
Well, we said at the time it was way too much, right? Like we all knew it was too much. And I think what you're seeing now is in these really big games, I don't think there's room for him in this team. I just don't. The way this team is set up, I don't think you can afford someone who just isn't good enough on the ball. It's all well and good saying he gives you a focal point up front, which he does. And he runs in behind, but he's slow. He wins every aerial duel, but they tend not to go to anyone in the big games. I mean, you know, I'm not talking about Sheffield United, West Ham, whatever. But there's so much. Kai Havertz is such an enigma of a footballer because for everything he does well, there's something else he does really poorly. And I think there is games for him, but I don't think he's a player that you want to play all the time. And I think when you've spent that much money on a player, you should be able to play them all the time.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, he is capable of a good line breaking pass, but he does it less than Jorginho. You know, his passing, his creativity is way below par for somebody that's going to play a more attacking midfield role for a club like Arsenal. I mean, just straight up. And although I do think he's probably our best forward player right now, I mean, like center forward player, I'd pick him over Jesus as of
I'd
right
pick him
now.
over Jesus while Jesus seems to be on one leg, like he's running. Like the explosiveness for Jesus just isn't there. If
I
you
don't think Jesus is coming back.
I worry about that too. If you gave me the Jesus that we signed, if you gave me the Jesus before the World Cup in Qatar,
yeah,
I'm taking that one every day of the week.
I would too. But we've not seen him now for
we
over
haven't
a
seen
year.
that at all. No, we have not seen that at all since that injury in the World Cup. I mean, you've got to hope that you know the next stop puts it right. But how many times is the next stop going to put it right? Because so far this is 2 he's had that hasn't worked. Why is the next one going to work?
Yeah, no, I agree, and so I don't know. We're kind of in you know, a really sticky situation where we need a better forward, but now we've got these two high end players that we bought in Jesus and Havertz, and you can add Zinchenko too, really, if you want. That none of them are really good enough to start, and we've got over 120 million in the three of them.
Yeah, and over 200 grand a week in Havertz and Jesus.
Isn't Havertz himself over 200 grand?
Yeah, I meant both of them. They're both on over 200 grand a week. So I don't know. This is going to be a big summer and a bigger summer than we all thought, because I think we're further away than we all thought. And it sounds hyperbolic to say that when you think we're 2 points off the top with a better goal difference, right? So, like I said, I'm saying I didn't want to do a post-mortem on the season, and we're kind of doing it. You know, we could still win the title as it stands, but even if we did that, this team needs something different. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't. I don't think we can go into another season with these options and expect it to be better. Like if we ended the season now and started next season next week, do you think it would go better or worse than this season?
Probably. I mean, Probably better.
You think? Because I think it would be worse.
Only because, I mean, we went into last season. What Party was hurt pretty much from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Timber, I think just having those guys there. Jesus,
but you're not going to have everyone, right? Like we've been. I know we've had a couple of injuries, but we haven't had a load of injuries. And I don't know how much Partey was actually slated to play this season anyway. Like, I think, do you agree that if Arteta in his dream world, when he signed these players and went to bed at night, he was thinking his midfield three was going to be Rice, Ødegaard, and Havertz, right? That was his intention, I think, in midfield when he made these signings. So I don't think Partey was he was never, and you already knew you couldn't rely on Partey. Like, if we started next season tomorrow, there's no way Partey's fit for the entire season. No chance. He's going to miss 6 months of next season anyway. You know he is. He always does. So I don't know. I don't see. I think if you ran it back again with this team, I think it's going to go worse than better. Because I don't think that this season has been bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're looking at ending up with 80 plus points again. Second year in a row for the first time in 2 decades. We lost by the odd goal to Bayern Munich in the Champions League quarterfinal. Like, I don't want to sound like the sky is falling, because it's not. I think this team could do roughly the same thing again next year. I just think we've got to do better in some games. We just don't have enough going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I agree overall. I think we need 4 good to great players. We need a left back, we need a left 8, we need a striker, and maybe a right wing.
And I don't think we need all of them to win the title. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if you got 2 of them,
probably not.
We could win the title with 2 of them. I think if
a left back and a forward are probably.
If you bought a left back and a forward, even without the left back, I think if you bought a really top class left 8 and a forward, I think you could still win the league, because our problems are not defensively. Like, whatever you want to talk about, everything else, our problem is not defensively. Our problem's going forward. We conceded those stupid goals against Villa because we weren't already 3-0 up when we should have been. In this Bayern Munich game, we lost this one at home. And the defence, we conceded 2 stupid goals at home, but we had chances to be way up after that first leg, and we were just poor going forward again.
I didn't actually. To be fair, so I watched the game on Dutch television, Ziggo TV. So I didn't have commentary or anything. I watched the Kimmich goal 5-6 times, but it didn't look like there was much that could have changed, but my angle was also kind of zoomed in as well.
Yeah, there were about 5 mistakes in that.
Yeah.
I think, Martinelli should have done better stopping the original cross coming in. Tomiyasu completely switches off. Declan Rice switches off. I thought Declan Rice had a really poor game. Second half, I want to say second half. Because I think first half, I thought we were really good. We could have gone in at half-time winning. I was very optimistic at half-time. I don't know.
Bayern had some good chances too, though, to be fair.
They did.
Yeah.
But the second half was just a mess. I thought the second half was just a mess. Like, I thought Jorginho had a really bad night. Players were just walking off of him, and they were getting a player in that space between Saka and White. They were moving a player over there because they were just able to walk off Jorginho. Thought Jorginho's passing was off as well. It was just a bad night all round. I thought Ben White struggled again, second game in a row.
Saka had like one of the worst games I've ever seen.
Yeah, Saka was
for him.
Really poor. Havertz wasn't good. I think Ødegaard was basically left to carry that fight on his own in the second half.
Pretty much the only attacking player that was good.
Yeah, I think he was left to fight that on his own, and I kind of felt like that happened against Villa as well. And obviously he's carrying a knock as well. But yeah, it's like the Martin Ødegaard show going forward, and that is literally all we got. He's getting no help from anywhere. And I just wonder if, to go back to it again, I just wonder if Arteta needs to figure out something different. I just think he needs to find a way to get Saka and Martinelli closer to goal. We can't keep getting them.
At least one of them.
Yeah.
At least one of them.
We can't keep with them receiving the ball on a touchline all the time because it's not working.
Yeah. Yeah, I think something has to change to get at least one of them closer to goal and the other one to maybe transition into a little more support for the 2 up top. I'm not saying play 2 up top. That's not what I mean. But It's something does have to change, because what we're seeing right now is Odegaard basically having to drag this attack to the 18-yard box and hope something happens. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not.
I think we make too many passes too, right? We're back to this situation again where we are making too many passes. There's too much going square. I mean, I don't know how many times Saliba and Gabriel passed to each other last night, but I think in the first 15 minutes they must have had 40 passes between the two of them. Bayern Munich are happy seeing that. That doesn't help anybody. Them two just knocking the ball between them. It was ridiculous. We had about 80% of the ball and didn't threaten at all.
Well, now hold on, mate. I mean, that does boost our possession stats.
It does, and it boosts the pass completion stats. And it's just, I've got no problem with taking the sting out of the game away from home, especially early. My problem is that we never progressed from there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we really never progressed from there. You even see it attacking wise sometimes. I think that I'm all for keeping the ball. I think that's a good thing, but I think sometimes we lose our like attacking impetus in order to keep the ball when dropping it to, back to midfield kills the momentum we had going forward.
I think Kai Havertz is a lot to do with that too, because his first thought is always to pass back into midfield. Always. He's not interested in turning on the ball at all. And he's not interested in trying to find a good pass to one of the wide men. His only interest is knocking the ball backwards to Jorginho or to Havertz or to one of the to Odegaard, or one of the fullbacks.
Yeah, it's like he has like a limited amount of confidence per game, and it only leads to like one through ball in the match, and then he's got to go back after that. It's like what it feels like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he hasn't got the ability on the ball to be able to turn and go at people.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, look, I never thought I'd say this, and this isn't really critical of Havertz necessarily, but I mean, we missed Xhaka a lot this year, I think.
Yeah, I do too. I think we've missed him a lot. We've missed him driving into the box. We've missed that scissor motion that he used to do with Martinelli, which did allow Martinelli to get more central. We changed the way we played, and for the most part, I think it's been generally successful. I just wonder if we're getting to the point of the season again, like we did last year, where it's been found out a little bit and we don't have an answer.
I mean, yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. I mean, I think Zinchenko, especially offensively, has been fully found out by teams now. And that was kind of our overload in midfield that helped give us the numbers and let midfielders push up. Yeah, I think the way we play is, I mean, Havertz is easier to shut down. I can't believe I'm saying that because, I've been critical of Xhaka for that. But the Xhaka of last season would not be shut down that easy. And, you hit it on earlier in the pod, that two-way midfielder. Yeah. I agree with you. I think Ramsey would be perfect. But, I mean, Xhaka did so good last season because he's a
two-way player. He's a two-way player. And what we got wrong with Havertz, right, is we thought Havertz was a one-way player, but we thought it was forward. And in truth, Havertz is a one-way player, but it's backwards. He's a without the ball player, not a ball player. And I just don't think that's why he doesn't work in left 8. That's why we're better with him up top. But when you're relying on Jorginho, something has gone wrong with your season. I don't think there's a way to sugarcoat that. Jorginho was not supposed to be this integral to this team. He just wasn't. And, I know people are going to say, oh, you're a Jorginho hater. I'm not a massive Jorginho fan. But Arteta was not intending on Jorginho being a crucial player for this team. He just wasn't. That was not the plan. And, we have got a massive question to answer in that position.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we do. It's got to be addressed. I think obviously, center forward is going to be the big one. And I think a lot of that has to do with the market. Of course, we've touched on that a bunch. So I don't want to, even throw up a name or anything. But I think that left 8 is actually going to be the most key to how we play. It's interesting because I do think that if we had a really good two-way player, think of our team last year with Xhaka before Saliba went down. We were like by far the best team. Not by far, you know what I mean, though. We had an edge on like the best team, and I don't know. I think until we address that, it's going to be a mess. And I also think it's the easier position to address versus center forward as well.
Yeah, I think there's more of them around, right? Is basically what we're saying. You've got more chance of hitting on one than you have on hitting on that centre forward. I mean, I don't know who it is. I'm not about to throw names out there.
Yeah, we don't have that now.
But it is a position that has to be addressed. So, just anyway, we've now got to try and pick ourselves up for the Wolves game, right? Like I said at the start of this, we are 2 points behind with 6 games to go. This isn't, for as bad as it feels right now, this isn't dead if we can refine some form that we seem to have lost. I don't know how we go about doing it. I suspect there's going to be a couple of changes for the game at Wolves. I think Jesus is going to start. I think it will probably be instead of Martinelli on the left, I would imagine. I think he's probably going to throw Partey back in because I think we're getting to that desperation point now where you might as well try something because what we've been doing hasn't been working.
For Rice? Or you mean
for Jorginho? For Jorginho, and he'll Rice will carry on in that left 8, and which again I don't think is the answer, but
I don't either.
What do you think? How do we pick ourselves up for the Wolves game? Like, what do we do from here?
Well, I will say just real quick, I am glad it's Wolves next and not United or the NLD, the Derby. Not that, I mean, Wolves aren't some like shove over team or anything like, Sheffield could have been, but man, I don't know, mate. I mean, I look across the pitch from like, last night's team and there was a lot of problems. Like a lot of problems.
And they're not going to be solved in 4 days, right?
No, of course not.
We're not solving those issues in the next 4 days. So we've got to try and find a way to work around them. There is no centre forward coming in. There is no left 8. There is no new left back coming in. So we have got to work with what we've got. And we've shown with what we've got that we can put on a good run and we can win with what we've got. But I think we're in a situation now where we've got so many players who are off form that I don't know where we really go from here. If they can't find their form, we are probably in trouble.
It feels like every forward that we have right now is kind of off. Everyone, Havertz, Jesus, Saka, Martinelli, Trost. I don't want to throw Trossard in, but he's also kind of the next layer back, from those guys, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of, man, I don't know.
And we've also
somebody's got to find form.
We've also got half a squad that Arteta seems to feel are just unusable. I mean, throwing Nketiah on Wednesday night, that was insane, absolutely insane. But when you think about it, he's being paid $100,000 a week. So what do? You're stuck with him. The contracts for him and Nelson made no sense at the time. They make no sense now. We've got them two. We've got Emil Smith-Rowe. We've got £30-odd million Fabio Vieira. Thomas Partey isn't seeing the field. We've got all these players that are basically unusable at this point, and there's got to be some way. We've basically got to try and purge ourselves of these players and bring in other players. But if we did that, Juz, do you think we would still be in the situation where Arteta will only use 13 players? Because I do. I think you could get rid of them. He'd buy a load of new players, and all that happened is the players that are there, he'd just stop using.
I think he prefers to keep a tight squad. I do. And I think we've beat the horse on this a bunch. We've said it probably 20 times, but all these players are his now, right? He's either signed them all or he's given them contract extensions. Every single player at the club now, right? If I'm not mistaken, I believe, maybe not El Neni, but I believe everybody else.
Oh, well, El Neni technically got an extension last season.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, your option. You're right. And I also think that
But it just seems just that he wants this massive squad and then doesn't want to use any of them. You know, he wanted to keep Reece. Why? He wanted to keep Eddie. Why? He wanted to keep Smith Rowe. Cubs wanted Smith Rowe in the summer, and they were told under no circumstances were Arsenal willing to let him go. Why?
well, and the fact of the matter is a lot of those guys that are good enough to be in our starting 11 but aren't playing very much is, I mean, a lot of them are coming off injury, but Arteta misses every opportunity to give them minutes before he needs them.
Yeah,
So
he doesn't want to play him. He doesn't, and that's my point.
Yeah,
I think if we could have a squad of 50 players,
stupid.
and he would still only use 14 of them.
I love Arteta. I'm not, I'm not even nearing like Arteta should be gone or anything like that. I'm not, but I still think his squad management is pretty bullshit, and he's got to work on it.
Yeah, that will get rid of half these players. That will get rid of them. If you only want to use 16 players, that's fine. Sell the rest. Do not
and keep kids in them.
Fabio Vieira, and don't keep all these players sitting around just sitting on the bench forever. Just get rid of them. Like if you only want to use 16 players, that's fine. I'm not a squad rotation guy. I've got no problem with you just using 16 players. But don't keep the others sitting there for no reason. Just get rid of them. Don't keep extending players' contracts not to use them.
Yeah, and then also don't complain when your squad is shallow either. He not saying he does that often or anything, but it's just it's frustrating. I think, Gav, because we do have quite a bit of talent, and I've been looking at our bench. I don't know, pretty much since Christmas or New Year's, and it's some of the best benches I've seen.
I know, it's mad. I saw someone say yesterday that you looked at the bench and you didn't think we had much on Wednesday night. The fuck are you talking about? There was Fabio Vieira sitting on that bench. Emil Smith-Rowe was sitting on that bench. Gabriel Jesus was sitting on that bench. Thomas Partey was sitting on that bench. Don't tell me that's a weak bench. That ain't a weak bench.
Those are 50 million players.
Yeah, that's not a weak bench.
Close. Well, but no, it's not a weak bench.
It's, at some point, every one of them players would have fetched 30 million plus.
Yep.
At some point.
100%.
And it's, and that's the other thing is that you're killing these players' values. Why is anyone going to pay decent money for Reece when he's made, one start and 6 sub appearances all season? Why would anyone pay any sort of money for Emil Smith-Rowe when you clearly don't want to use him? Why would anyone pay any sort of money for Fabio Vieira when it's quite clear you've moved on from him? Which, by the way, I'm fine with because he was a terrible signing. And sometimes you just have to say that was a bad signing and move on. But why would anyone pay any sort of money for him? They wouldn't. And I think this is the problem with squad management, is that it's destroying values and it's causing all sorts of problems, I think, where he just will not use players. And then all of a sudden, he don't use them. Oh, look, I'm going to have to rely on you now.
Yep. Yeah, that was kind of my initial point in getting into this whole discussion is that he doesn't use them at all, and then when he needs them, they're not ready. They're not match fit. They're rusty. I mean, we're seeing that right now with Partey. Emil Smith-Rowe has been thrown into even like a starting spot a few games ago. He's barely touched the ball before that. What do you get? 15 minutes before they threw him in the starting lineup?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. But
yep. All right, Vieira's not even gotten an appearance.
Vieira's not even coming off the bench. I mean, he's not even coming off the bench. It's just, I don't know, it's crazy. No,
I don't know.
Well, I tell you what, it's been kind of cathartic, I guess, tonight. But I don't see any point in really carrying on with more and more of the same because we're just going over old ground. I think we just got to hope that we can somehow recover it because, like I said, we do have 6 games to go and 6 wins probably still gives us the title because you've got to think at some point City will slip up somewhere, even if it's just one draw. And that's kind of got to be the focus now, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're basically just kind of sitting here bitching. But yeah, I think, you've got to hope for them to slip up, but we've got to do our job first and win.
Yeah, that's it. All right, mate. Well, let's leave it there for now. And we'll come back early next week after the Wolves game when hopefully everyone's in a bit of a better mood and a bit of a better place. And I think more time will probably give us a little bit better perspective on this because we are angry at the moment and it is venting. And it's because we've for the 3rd year in a row we're seeing our season fall apart at the start of April, and it just all seems so preventable.
It does. Yep.
But that's where we are. All right, mate. Well, thanks for tonight. And let's hope for a better performance on Saturday night.
Yep. Same. All right, Gav. Good night.
All right, mate. Good night.